Hello, everyone. For our final assignment, we were tasked with discovering the key factors or assessing the key factors that make a difference between wine quality. So, done between me, Morgan Flannery, and Wayne Kawaja. Okay, without further ado, I will be giving you guys a little background about our data assessment, where it came from, and how we collected it. So, let's jump right in. We have compiled a data set that includes records related to both red and white variants of Portuguese Vinho Verde wine. We got information from 1599 red wine samples and 4898 white wine samples. Our input consists of a type of wine, either red and white. We change this to be zeros and ones within our data set, so it's easy to identify things when they're binary. So luckily, we only have two options. And metrics and we also pulled metrics from to make so we can run objective tests, and that means we included acidity levels, pH levels, ABV levels, and all in between. The target output variable is a numerical based on sensory data. The median of at least three evaluations made by wine experts. Each expert graded the wine quality on a scale of zero, meaning very bad, to 10 as an excellent. Due to privacy and logistical issues, we do not have data about grape types, wine brands, or wine selling prices. So therefore, we just stick with more of a broader sense rather than going to the nitty gritty of how it was raised, how it was fed, and all that in between. Prior to running any models or graphing any charts, we decided to run a preliminary data analysis, just to check out the scope of the data, like the nature of it, what's there, what's not. Our foundings found that indicated that data is generally clean. There was an absence of null values, missing values, which then reflect that good data collection practices, and this would allow we anticipate this will allow our models to perform better as it leverages all available information without the need for like approximations, like to fill in the gaps, like why isn't this here, why isn't this there, oh we gotta assume this was a reason, trace back the sources. So that was very nice and very fortuitous, so it would allow us to move forward with the process. Although we needed to segregate, I mentioned previously, we need to segregate the types of wine to like binary numbers. So they have numeric values essentially. So zero for white and one for red, just to make things tracking and pulling reports easier using scripting. There were notable outliers present within the data. While we could addressing these outliers could prove to enhance the model performance, we decided to forego a little bit because there was so very few. It wasn't like a ton, so therefore we decided that the impact would be minimal, basically due to its large volume in the whole grand scheme of the collection.
In this slide, we explore the basic statistics across the wine dataset. We found that fixed acidity ranged from about 3.8 to 15.9 grams per decimeter cubed, with red wines having slightly higher averages. Volatile acidity, which negatively impacts wine quality, was higher in red wines. White wines showed greater amounts of citric acid, residual sugar, and sulfur dioxide. pH levels were fairly consistent, but red wines were slightly more acidic. Importantly, alcohol content and sulfates, both associated with better quality, were distributed differently across red and white wines, with white wines tending to show more favorable levels. Here, we visualize distributions of key variables using histograms and box plots. Alcohol content was noticeably higher in white wines, and residual sugar showed greater variation in white wines as well. When comparing wine quality using box plots, white wine tended to have slightly higher scores on average, though there's an overlap between the two types. These visual tools help us see early patterns that suggest wine type may influence both chemical properties and quality. Next, we used scatter plots to investigate relationships between wine quality and individual chemical features. Alcohol content showed a clear positive correlation. Wines with more alcohol tended to score higher in quality. In contrast, volatile acidity had a negative relationship, with higher levels resulting in lower quality scores. Sulfates were moderately positively correlated with quality, while density had a negative relationship, likely because high density often reflects higher sugar and lower alcohol content. We also created a correlation heat map to better understand how chemical variables relate to wine quality. Alcohol content had the strongest positive correlation with quality, around plus 0.44. Sulfates had a modest positive correlation as well. On the negative side, volatile acidity showed a strong negative correlation, and density also had a noticeable negative relationship. These correlations highlight which features are most closely tied to how wine quality is rated. To determine if the differences we observed are statistically meaningful, we ran a series of hypotheses tests. A t-test comparing red and white wine quality found a significant difference. White wine scored slightly higher with a p-value below 0.001. Another t-test comparing alcohol levels confirmed that white wines have significantly more alcohol on average. Finally, an ANOVA analysis confirmed that wine type significantly affects quality scores. Together, these tests support our earlier observations and show that wine type plays an important role in quality.
We ran multiple regression reporting, and then we found out maybe the best thing we want to do is segregate results by white wine and red wine. That's the way we could say, hey, this one affects this, and maybe this one doesn't affect that. So I'll start off here, and across what we found in our regression model reporting for white wine is that the multiple linear regression model identifies several significant predictors. Higher fixed acidity, residual sugar-free dioxide and pH level, and sulfites, as well as alcohol contents, are associated with better wine quality than white wine. So that means if they meet these, pouring more of these ingredients or having more of these factors within white wine will definitely probably we could say is correlatable to more efficient taste and or enhance of quality in the wine. Conversely, we found volatile acidity and density. What's it called? Ultimately, did the opposite and definitely reduced it. It sounds pretty straightforward. 'Cause, volatile. You hear those words density. Like you don't want your wine to be heavy and too acidic. So you know, but of course, we had to run the models to make sure that these results were accurate. We also found that citric acid chlorides and total sulfur dioxide are not statistically significant predictors. This means we found no correlation between being bad or good. It kind of just existed within the model. It doesn't really matter. Like they could fluctuate from high level, low levels. It just didn't make it. It didn't have a direct correlations after running our model report. We also are confident to say that the model explained about 28% of the variance in white wine quality, offering valuable insights into factors including wine, so wine quality. So we can confidently say that our REST modeling was accurate here, and we will elaborate more as we continue on how we went on testing the validity of our models. But before that, I will transition to talking about our red wine regression modeling reporting. As promised, here is the results for our red wine regression model in our reporting. We found that we identified several significant predictors, and for the positive side, we found a higher volatile acidity, total sulfur dioxide, and density negatively impact wine quality. Oh no, I just fucked up my words. In an effort to ensure validity or to gauge validity of our regression models, we relied upon R-squared values and residual analysis. In regards to R-squared values, within the red wine model, we saw that it explained a proportionally higher variance than in the white wine, meaning we found more reasons why the red wine had maybe more variables and differences in results than in white wine. So it means we're more in regards to the comparison. We could say that we're more confident in the red wine model versus the white wine model. which is still fairly accurate. And we confirmed this by running residual analysis, and found that both models indicates that found that both models are generally accurate, and that in both instances errors were randomly distributed. This shows that there was no direct correlation in how failures or outliers were created. So we could say that each outlier is kind of a standout on its own versus its own, like, hey, maybe this wine had more of this and less of that, but why did this happen here within a whole like army or whole collection trending this way? We didn't see that. We saw more of it just on the random spurts. Therefore, we can cautiously say that a few of them at that saw random spurts. They're standalone issues, not like a common, but not like common cause. Therefore, our regression model did a fair job in capturing the actual results, and not just pulling in random numbers, and that we could rely on. Well, essentially, our findings suggest that both models can be reliably used, and to predict wine quality based on its chemical properties.
To further evaluate wine quality, we built. Looking back at the project as a whole, there are several. Based on our findings, we have a few recommendations.